Okay, this is Lloyd Princeton with Design Management Company, and welcome you on board to the third in our business continuation series. Today is geared towards showroom owners and their suppliers, and we've got a lot of people dialing in, which clearly means it's a germane topic. And today, though, I'm going to not do any talking other than moderating and kind of keeping things flowing, because we've got two speakers this time, both Thomas Lavin and Joby Blocky, and Joby represents not only his own brand, Quintus Home, but also the Decorative Furnishings Association, of which many of us are members. So I'm excited, and without further ado, I bring on board my dear friend and colleague, Thomas Lavin.
Howdy.
So Thomas, tell us.
Yeah,
you're talking. It's your floor. Help us. What are you doing for? What's going on in your showroom, and what are you doing, and how are you working with your suppliers? How are things changed?
Well, it's so funny. Yesterday afternoon, I was about to slip my wrist because I'd been sitting at the dining table all day, and so my boyfriend and I went out to take a walk. And what's fascinating is if you looked at society 2 weeks ago, everyone was glued to their screens. And I think in the past week, everybody has realized how important the human touch is. And people were outside walking their dogs, speaking socially distant. So I try to remain a perennial optimist, and I'm hoping that when we come through this, everyone remembers how important their relationships are and how important humanity is. And all that to say that when we sort of evacuated the showrooms last week, my team has been engaged every day with reaching out to their customers in whatever method they prefer, whether it's phone, FaceTime, Zoom, Instagram, and really getting a wonderful response because we're all in the same boat of fear, anxiety, unknowing, and then also, moments like Aaron said of like putting on perfume and taking a bubble bath to try and find normalcy.
Excellent. So, the showroom business, you've got unique challenges. You've got a boatload of real estate. You've got staff. You've got a supply chain. How have things been affected? And what if anything, are you doing differently to manage this?
So right now, in terms of supply chain, it feels to me as pretty much the entire world is shut down. So our suppliers across the globe are unable to ship right now, and so we're just sharing that information with customers. As I was reading Business at Home this morning, the new normal is for people to work at home. So for a lot of people, it's not that peculiar. It's dealing with the interruptions. We had a designer yesterday who wanted to place an order for one of our Italian leather companies, and we let them know that it was, we didn't know when they were going to ship. And she said, you know what, honey, I want to be first in line. Go place the order. So I said, that's great. So we're communicating transparently, and I'm dealing with information as it comes. I think that the communication, which we've always been strong at, continues to grow stronger and clearer. And what we're doing in terms of our own company is every morning we have a Zoom meeting with our LA team. We have a Zoom meeting at 9:30 with our Orange County team, and then management has a 10 o'clock meeting. So we're all staying in touch, seeing each other, sharing wins and challenges.
Okay, and how does that seem to be working? Do you find has your staff been how has this new normal worked for sales and for customer service?
Customer service has been very frustrating because they have to work on our computer system remotely, which slows it down. One of our guys was working until midnight last night processing orders. Sales is fine because they're using their devices and they're really more on the phone. So I think our biggest challenge has been with client services. But the staff it's a very tight team, both within each showroom and then company-wide. So everyone's maintaining their spirits. And we have not furloughed anyone, so they're all very glad that they still have jobs in this, sort of unknown world.
Absolutely. And if you don't mind, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have a a marker in mind, or what would be the point where you might decide to furlough? Is there a date? Is there an event, a number, a cash flow perspective? Have you even reached something? Whether or not you would care to share what it is?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we're all running businesses, and we all have to be profitable. So obviously, cash flow and sales is the most important thing. I think we are all in agreement there's going to be a downturn, and how deep that is, we don't know yet. I know Q1 seems to be, closing reasonably well for my colleagues. So we don't know yet what the marker is, but I also know that there are different programs available. The SBA is offering some loans. Perhaps our dysfunctional federal government will be able to pull something together that will actually help small businesses. I think Governor Newsom is coming up with things, so I think there's going to be programs to help us out, and we don't want to act prematurely because we believe there will be access to things that will help us, including some sort of rent issues. I've been on the phone with real estate lawyers and insurance people. For those who have business interruption insurance, pandemics are excluded. It's my understanding that New Jersey came out yesterday and said that while programs may exclude pandemics, they've made it illegal in New Jersey, and they're requiring insurance companies to pay out. And I haven't researched it myself, but that comes to me from my attorney. So, I remain optimistic that society and governments will come together to make it right, because you can't shut down the world.
So you're thinking that maybe Mr. Cohen is going to be fine with a little rent forbearance for a while, huh?
Well, I would never take the presumption of speaking for my landlord, but I do believe that there's going to be help out there in different forms.
Agreed. And as I've mentioned in 2 previous calls, I have already applied for my FEMA-based SBA loan.
Yes.
Which is specifically for loss of revenue, and I could qualify because I've had 2 searches postponed, and while the other ones are still progressing, who knows what's going to happen next month. Joby, you are unmuted, and I would love to invite you into the conversation at this point. Is there anything that you would like to address differently than what Thomas has mentioned?
No, I think one of the positives that's come out of this for me is it's shown how we can all come together and help each other as an industry. Thomas and I technically, I guess, are competitors, but we've also been talking on the phone every day, and we're doing FaceTime calls every day, and sharing ideas and best practices and how we're working with our teams right now, and ideas on the SBA loans and rent and all of those things. And it's been truthfully really wonderful for me to have that interaction with him. He and I used to do, we called it our quarterly board meeting, where we would meet for breakfast once a quarter if we were lucky. And I always walked away from those meetings, and I hope Thomas felt the same way. I always walked away feeling like I had learned something and I was better as a result of it. And now I get to do it every day. So that's one positive that's come out of this for me. And even down to the details, he gave me a great idea last week, and I've implemented this with my team, that when we do our startup call every day at 9:00, that we're going to do it with video, and we're going to get dressed for work. But just that routine of getting up and making sure that you're dressed and ready to work for the day can make such a huge difference in how productive you are. And I remember yesterday morning I was sitting and getting ready to start the day, and my wife walked in and said, "Where are you going today? Why are you dressed up all of a sudden and not in your sweats like you were all last week?" and I did feel like I had a more productive day yesterday as a result of it. And then what I've been doing with my team, which again we've been sharing some ideas on this, is we've been doing my approach is I want to come out of this. No matter what this ends up looking like or how long it ends up lasting, I want to come out of it better than I went into it. Yeah. And I want my team to come out of it better than we went into it. So like Thomas, I've kept my entire team on board to this point, and we've been doing product knowledge training sessions every day with all of our vendors, and even doing more training with my team just on Quintus for within our showroom. We've been doing systems improvements, so I've had different team members take on different vendors, and we've been going through and verifying data our computer system, uploading product images, tear sheets, things like that, so that, again, we can be more efficient and more productive when we come out of it. And then this week we started doing a competitive analysis of different brands in the industry. So I asked each one of my team members to study a brand that's at, Thomas's showroom, at Needler, at Holly Hunt, at Dennis Miller, at, Culp Associates in Texas or wherever, and pick a multi-line brand, and then they're all going to present it to the rest of the team tomorrow morning. So, trying to educate ourselves on our own products, trying to learn more about the industry. And then we're all also doing the DFA sales training workshop right now, which is a 7-part series we created with DFA, and so hopefully they're all going to come out of it as better and better salespeople and more in tune with their selling process when they come out of it also. So that's been kind of my approach with my team up until this point. In terms of how we're addressing it from a mental health standpoint, I'm clueless at this point. So I'm hoping some other people have ideas. Thomas and I talked about some things yesterday. I think this remote learning experiment for all of us that we've been thrown into is I think we're all going to come out of it and learn things that we could be doing from home that might be better for us personally, or better for the environment, or whatever it ends up being. But I also think there's challenges with it, and I'm definitely sensing that with some of my team members already to this point. And so I think there's going to be some learning over the next few weeks as we all are in the midst of it, and then hopefully some longer term lessons that we can take out of it once we're all back to normal everyday life again.
I think that's terrific. I'm actually, I am optimistic that we will return. I think I'm optimistic that business will return to normal, or at least the spending will not disappear, because I think that people who've lost money, there's an equal amount of people who are making money, and I think there may be a shift of customers, but I think ultimately I think the spending will happen, and the sooner that things, I put this with quotations, return to normal, then I think we're going to be good. I'd like to ask each of you a question that's kind of crossed my mind, but I think it's a difficult question, which I know a lot of people are considering. Do you think, and is it, I don't know even if it's a valid question, do you think it is better to furlough specific employees and or do payroll rollbacks across all employees in order to conserve cash but try to keep the people on board?
I think I've spoken to some colleagues about it, and I think it depends on the business. In 2008, we're a family company, and we know that people are supporting families and putting their kids through school, and so nobody ever wants to furlough or lay off. In 2008, we went to a work share program where we were able to reduce hours. We saved on payroll, and they were able to collect additional money through California EDD. And so that would be our first step before furloughing people. But I also just think it depends on the age of the business, the cash flow. I've got some friends in the business who I recommend that they get as lean as possible so that they can weather the storm.
Yeah, and some of it also depends. Some of it depends on what the final aid package is going to be from the government, because there's been discussion that if you have laid people off, there's discussion that some of the guaranteed SBA loans will include forgiveness for any of the loaned money that's used towards payroll and benefits, but it only is valid if you haven't laid any employees off. And so some of us are kind of holding and waiting to see what that final package and what the requirements are. And so, in my case, I've basically essentially two different groups of employees that I have to think about. I have my showroom and sales team, which includes inside and outside sales associates, but I also have my own workroom, and my workroom employees obviously can't work from home. My sales associates can. They're doing outreach and training and all those other types of things, but my upholsterers and frame makers and things like that are sitting at home right now with nothing to do. I'm still paying them at this point. But I do have decisions to make depending on what the government plan is going to end up end up looking like. So hopefully there's some clarity on that. And I've actually hired someone that specializes in applying for these types of loans, whether they're SBA loans during emergency situations like this, or just regular, loans and credit for companies. And so he's kind of guiding us through the process. And his recommendation was that we hold at this point before we do anything to make sure that, we're able to fully take advantage of whatever the government programs are going to be.
That's really good advice. I appreciate that.
One thing that I did, if there's other showrooms or companies that have commissioned salespeople, one of the things I did for my team, just to kind of motivate them, I guess, to keep pushing hard through all of this, is I actually have increased the commission that I'm paying my sales team over the next few weeks.
Love it.
To try to incentivize them.
That is excellent.
To want to stay engaged while they're working at home, to try to do all the outreach that they can and collaborate with their clients to see what we can try to, keep pushing through, because I've not only with my brand to worry about, but I also have, 20 brands that I sell through my showroom that I feel a responsibility to make sure that I'm sending business their way. And so I wanted to incentivize my team to try to keep engaged and working on that.
That's terrific. I think that's actually, that's really fantastic advice. Particularly, I think spending more money would be counterintuitive to what people are feeling. Interestingly enough, that, which, by the way, just this morning in the Wall Street Journal, there's a great article that is titled "Being Scared Should Be a Reason to Buy," and essentially, the article talks about the market being tanked, but and of course, while you're really terrified to spend any money in the market because it could go down some more, it's also an opportunity to spend and buy stocks that will be going back up again, and there's going to be people who are going to make some very serious money, and yet it still is daunting. And I think in this case, if you're paying more commission, I really applaud that. Do either of you have anything else that you would like to offer up before I open this up to questions?
I think what I would always say, and Lloyd, you've known me for such a long time, is to maintain a sense of optimism, because it will pass. We've all made it through 9/11. We made it through 2008. And everybody on the call has made it through other challenges that we don't even know. So to maintain optimism, what do they say in England? Carry on. I forget what the full line is.
Keep calm and carry on.
Keep calm and carry on, exactly.
Exactly. Without a doubt.
And what I would add to that is, I think, it opens up the opportunity for us, or I think we all have to be open to the idea of just communicating more and having honest, candid conversations about what's happening with the business. There's obviously a lot of nervousness, not only about are the orders going to come in, but then when designers are sending orders in, I've had many conversations in the last week with them. Is my deposit safe? Is it safe for me to be sending orders into these vendors? Are they going to be okay? And then with Dongia filing bankruptcy right now and closing all their showrooms, that just adds to that nervousness a little bit. And so I think, I think the more we can communicate and talk, and if you're a designer and you are concerned, pick up the phone and call your showroom salesperson, or call the brand owner, call the showroom owner and say, is this going to be okay? And then we can walk you through and, address whatever concerns there are. But I think we're just all going to have to be more communicative and have a lot more conversations to keep, with each other to keep things moving.
Well,
okay, well, that actually...
A sense of transparency. I was on the Zoom with my Laguna crew this morning, and one of the guys said, with Dongia closing, and he mentioned some other companies that have laid off or furloughed their staff, he said, what's the plan? And, quite frankly, working with my financial advisors over the past 18 months, we were preparing for a stock market correction and a recession. So we were prepared for a slowdown in business. And then personally, it was very frustrating that the government was aware last year that a pandemic was imminent and they didn't plan. But we're planned and we're set up. And to Joby's point, if designers have concerns, I think there's a transparency and communication in the industry that exists now that did not when I got into it 30 years ago.
So, but I think this brings up, Joby, you bring up a great question, which I know there's at least 10 designers on here right now who are asking. So, is there a blanket response to, is my deposit safe? What are you saying to the people who call you?
Obviously they're not only asking the question based on what's happening now, but what's happened with the industry over the last year with other, major companies. And so we purposefully work very closely with the artisans that we represent in our showroom, and I'm having, just like Thomas's, daily, or multiple times a week right now, conversations with them about how they're doing, what their concerns are, and I've even had some of them get directly on the phone with designers that that have had concerns about what's happening with their orders. The best I can do from my perspective is assure them that we're looking out for their best interest, and that we're going to make sure that their orders are made, that they might be delayed, but that none of our vendors at this point are at a point where they don't feel like they're going to come back out of this in the end. I'm also working very closely with all of the brands that we represent in our showroom to help them with their application process for the SBA loans. So some of them are maybe more artistically gifted than they are business savvy, and so we've actually been working with them. And as I'm going through the process, I'm learning and then helping them with some of their applications as they're getting ready to apply for some of the SBA loans as well. So I think to my point, what Thomas said, we're all just communicating a lot more and talking and trying to help each other through it.
I would. That's great, and I would like to just encourage everybody, having made my application with SBA, I can definitely encourage you to set your alarm for early and get up and start your applying at 6 a.m. Because their systems have been overloaded, and if it starts to go really, really slow, or you get an error message, just don't bother continuing. You will need access to your last 3 years of tax returns, and you will also need access to a printer and a scanner, because you're going to have to download signature forms for both personal and business to request verification, which will be sent to the IRS. And so they need you to download it, sign it. It pre-populates it. It's easy, but you need to have all this equipment handy. So be prepared to do it that way, and then don't do it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And if the system's moving quickly, then you're in a good spot. So that would be my advice around that. That's terrific, Joby. Anything else from either of you before I open up to questions?
Nothing I can think of.
Okay, let's see what we got out there. And I apologize for the clicking that's going to happen, but I'll mute it if it comes back. Question.
Shelley Becca. Hello?
Go for it. Shelley?
My question, I'm getting ready to place an order, a pretty large order, for a lot of furniture items and fabric, and what can I expect, at this particular time? I guess we just don't know, or should I hold off, or should I go ahead and place the orders now?
What I'm saying to customers is don't hold off. Obviously there's a delay in the supply chain right now. What I would recommend is call the owner of the showroom and make sure that they're comfortable with that manufacturer, and don't hold off. To my point earlier, we had some designers place orders recently knowing that things were going to be delayed, and they said they want to be first in line. So as long as you're comfortable with the showroom and the owner and they're comfortable with their lines,
well, you'll be hearing from me, Thomas.
Email me and I'll give you my mobile number.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you for that question.
We're still in production.
And I think it's also important, just we together as an industry, if we know that we have orders and things ready to go, we want to keep moving them through so that we can keep everyone active and engaged and healthy through all of this. I sent an enormous amount of deposits and payments out to my vendors yesterday and to my different artisans that we represent in the showroom, because I feel like it's important to keep them all moving and to keep them engaged. And a lot of people are still working. We've officially closed down our workroom, but my frame makers are still working. I've got finishers working. I mean, there are people out there that are still doing things at this point, rightly or wrongly, but they have to do it because that's part of their livelihood. And so they're trying, even if it's just the owners sitting at their studios working at this point. A lot of them, that's how they started. So they're like, I'm just back to where I was originally, and I'm still pushing things through and still working on them at this point.
Fair enough. That's a great question. Another question, please.
I have a question. This is Dorothy.
Oh, hey, okay. Dorothy, go ahead. It's Gary. I'll go next.
I'm sorry, Lloyd, who's going next?
Dorothy, you're next.
Okay, thanks. Hi, guys, and thank you so much for this phone call. I really appreciate everybody coming together and supporting one another. I know I greatly appreciate it. As far as cash flow is concerned, I had started the process of the SBA loan. We're okay right now. I'm concerned about 6 months from now as far as my employees are concerned and my cash flow. Has anybody had any experience with the SBA telling you you can't have it right now, even though you might be needing this loan in 6 months? And or has anybody, Joby, you were talking a little bit about this with laying people off now versus later, depending on what kind of benefits might be coming through as far as that goes, because we had looked at laying people off and still paying their health care so that they could have both unemployment benefit and the additional benefit of paid health care. Has anybody had any experience with the SBA then, as far as
I have not. We haven't started ours yet, so I couldn't answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, right, and I haven't gotten a response yet.
What we're doing is we're and again, it's all changing every day right now because we don't know what this new federal bailout is going to look like or what the requirements are going to be behind it, which is one of the reasons we haven't clicked send yet on our application. The guy that I'm working with we're trying to figure out, what's the formula they use, what's the max we can ask for, and we're going to try to get as much as we can possibly get. If we don't end up using it, we'll just send it back. But the nice thing about the program, the disaster loan program, is it's going to have a 30-year payback. The interest rate's a little high considering what interest rates are and what the Fed rate is right now. So they're definitely making money off us, but 3.75% over 30 years is still pretty good, and hopefully all of us will be healthy way before that, and we'll have sold our businesses by then and retired off somewhere sunny and beautiful, and we'll have it paid off by that point. But having that long of a payback time horizon, I think is really great for all of us. So
listen, Joby, I hadn't planned on being alive that long.
Oh yes, you will be, Lloyd. Please.
I'm going to do a balloon. I'm looking for a balloon payment at the end.
The formula is
that's great question, Dorothy.
The formula is going to be something like 3.5 times your monthly overhead is basically what they're talking about between payroll, benefits, and other recurring monthly business expenses. So they're looking at trying to support everyone for 90 to 100 days, I think. So to your point, you want to be able to do that, but you also have to think 6 months down the road for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
That's excellent. And also, I just want to that point, and I guess to the to what Joby just said. Whatever lines of credit or anything you're looking at, do not be afraid to draw them down 100% right now and just have the cash. Because to Joby's point, if you end up not needing it, you can always repay it. But if something happens and the bank changes their mind or the line of credit gets reduced, because that can happen, then you're SOL. They can't claw the cash back, but they can definitely make the facility unavailable. And even your home equity lines of credit, if the real estate market were to suddenly drop, they will immediately reevaluate all those. And so just take the money now. Other questions, please.
Lloyd, I have a question.
Gary, of course. I'm sorry, Gary Searle.
Sure. The question that I have is something that's concerning me is the fact that so many events like the Kips Bay Show House and other events where the design industry has come behind various charitable causes have been canceled, and I'm wondering how those charities are going to survive without the contributions that they've enjoyed from the design industry. At the same time, there's another English expression, which is charity begins at home, and if it's a question of supporting a worthwhile charity or making sure that you have funds to continue paying your staff, I'm wondering if anybody has had any thoughts about that and where the balance lies.
I do, Gary. I actually like to tackle that first. Just for what it's worth, I've, just by virtue of my marketing, I had tickets to all these showcases, and I just, went to the Kips Bay in West Palm Beach, which was fantastic, and San Francisco's been postponed, and, the reality is they already have our money. What is not the events have been postponed, but the sponsorships monies are not being refunded. So in that respect, they do have. Hopefully, they have the cash and they're able to do something with it. Now, how they distribute it, I don't know, but I'm hoping that the charities do see it. And in terms of supporting locally, I've actually made an effort to go out of my way to support the local businesses of everywhere I am. I'm spending money with people who, like I know housekeepers and people who may not have as much business now. That's where I'm putting my money. And then, of course, I'm still making sure that my people are paid so that they can, that they can continue to support who they're doing. Joby or Thomas, do you have anything different?
I don't really have anything to add. I think yes, you have to take care of our own houses first. It's like the oxygen mask. And I think once we get through this initial sort of crisis, I think then we can start looking more outside. But it's an important question that we have to address.
Another question, please.
Lloyd and everybody,
yes.
It's Donna. In some ways, I think all these suggestions are very helpful, especially with the idea of these loans. But another idea, which is optimistic, of course, this is only, now that people are at homebound, maybe this is a good time to really think about how can we engage people more in their homes and think about remodeling, redecorating, upgrading, something. The people, I know I have clients that sometimes they're traveling so much you never have a chance to even talk to them. Now it seems like, okay, well, I'm looking at my house and maybe, some new wallpaper would really spruce this up. Or is there any way that we could put a positive spin on any of that through Instagram stories or, something that really kind of shows that we're all really still actively involved and brands like Thomas's and Quintus's are all available and, trying to reach out to a greater community, all of which have homes, that maybe this is a good opportunity for them to get, something special.
It's a very valid point, Donna. Would anybody like to speak to that?
Hi, this is Betty. We're doing virtual appointments. We're putting through mood boards with our clients. We've sent out letters to all of our clients to say, we're here, we're going to draw things together with you and send you stuff. And my staff was kind of blown away, but they're having like 2 or 3 appointments a day virtually, either by Zoom, Facebook,
awesome.
FaceTime, and also just taking pictures of, mood boards, and the clients are home, and this is like the second week for them, and they're going nuts. So, it's starting to work. My sales have not gone down. So I totally
where are you based,
agree
Betty?
with that. We're in the D.C. area in Atlanta.
Okay, wonderful.
You're in the D.C. area, right?
Yeah.
Well, I know.
And Donna, it also made me think. Oh, I'm sorry. Just real quick. When you said that, what comes to mind also is you just did that wonderful video on Instagram, and I think you have such a gorgeous home. Wouldn't it be an interesting time to do a little walkthrough of your home, highlighting things that can be changed, or maybe showing before and afters of things that you did with your own remodel, and that might plant seeds or ideas with prospective clients.
I think it's good, and I had planned actually. Actually today I'm putting up a collage, sort of a collage, I guess, a video collage of just how much I love doing interior design, what accomplishments we've done. It's just maybe a minute video, but I'm doing it through Instagram, and on that, I've instructed my staff to put, okay, we're open for Zoom conferences, FaceTime, any kind of questions you have to answer. I did a video recently just on white paint, three kinds of white paint. That maybe people, thinking about, okay, what can I do in my home now that I'm stuck here more?
Right.
And I'm noticing things that need to be done. And I did do a video on my garden, Lloyd, a before and after.
Oh, beautiful.
Which I have not posted yet. So I have about 3 or 4 of those to go up. And then, I was doing it on a weekly basis, but that's what I've been doing, trying to keep a positive, slant on all of this situation.
No, you're doing the right thing. Let's a different question from anybody. Going once, going twice. Any more questions for our speakers or for the audience in general?
Well, for me, I feel very comforting by having these video conferences, especially with somebody like Thomas, because you feel more secure that if you do have a deposit or something out there, that you feel like, okay, I'm with a reputable company and they're not going to go under with my client's money. I think that's a very comforting conversation.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Ariane, are you still on the line?
I am.
Well, would you? I knew you were. I didn't want to put you on the spot. Would you mind speaking for a moment to from an editorial perspective of the frequency that you recommend for posting? Because call we had yesterday, somebody talked about posting daily. But as I think about it, with everyone posting daily, the deluge of content, is it possible that you're going to get lost? What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. Thank you. I think that's great. I think a lot of us everyone is trying to figure out what is the appropriate response to kind of the note to strike, right? How do we want to communicate, but what do we say? And I think everyone has rightfully maybe hit the exhaust button on sort of all the barrage of emails we've been getting. It's important to get those messages out, obviously, but every 5 minutes you feel like you're like, oh gosh, another email. I think that Instagram, and there's no better illustration than I'm going to just say is Thomas Lavin. I think Instagram is ideal if it's used appropriately and to communicate something that's worthwhile, and I think as long as, whatever is being expressed is, I'm going to use the overused word of the century, authentic. I think people are going to pay attention to that, and they're going to take it in. I also think in general, though, I think Instagram we can risk a little fatigue, which is why we have to be really careful with, what we put out there. And, editorially, I think everyone, media organizations, individuals, brands, businesses, I think there's maybe been the tendency to overdo it lately, just kind of over message, if you will. So my general sense is whatever you're putting forth, make sure that it's kind of a new thought. It doesn't have to be as frequent, it doesn't have to be multiple times a day. It could be, a few times a week, but just that it's an individual thought that stands on its own, that it has its own message, and that it's not just kind of the same old. Forgive me for saying this, but some of the platitudes that we get, a lot. All of these sentiments are great. I think we all believe in the Olympian we as an industry, but maybe not overdoing it, because then you just kind of risk sort of being dismissed, just kind of scrolled away, if you will.
No, that's very fair. That's excellent feedback. In addition to Instagram, can you recommend another source or 2 or 3? And now that you're on the showroom side, I imagine you may have a different perspective.
Oh God, I know so interesting. Thank you, Lloyd. Yes, to everyone who doesn't know, I straddle two worlds these days. I'm in arms with everyone on the showroom side in-house, and I also maintain my editorial background is still very much alive and kicking. So, Lloyd, when you say what else in addition to Instagram, meaning what other forms of communication are good? Is that what you meant?
Oh no, I mean what other channels?
Oh, what other channels other than Instagram? Is that what you mean?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think speaking on the gallery side, it's been my experience has been it's been a ton of conversations and then just a ton of emails. And I think, again, just sort of reverting earlier to what I said, I think there's a little bit of an onslaught of the emails, a little bit of a barrage, and I think there's a way to do it. Obviously, I'm sure Joby and Thomas and their amazing teams are being really careful about how they're saying, we're still here and we're happy to work with you in any way possible. Personally, I've had a few FaceTime experiences, just one-on-one with clients that have been pretty fortuitous. It's also nice to get a little bit more human in a time of 6 feet away, coronavirus,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
You're a master. Yeah, it helps. In fact, just a small anecdote, and then I want to cede the floor, Lloyd.
Okay, we'll take you off. But you remind me of what I find near and dear to my heart, which is still picking up the phone. I mean, if we're stuck at home or you're in your backyard or whatever, now's the time to pick up the phone and call people that you haven't spoken to in a long time, and that chances are they're actually going to pick up. So I do think that, and that certainly is infinitely more human than just sending a text message. And I love the idea of FaceTime, but of course FaceTime would make sure that you're all dolled up and you're.
There are filters.
You're looking good, and even to Erin Ferrucci, you got your new fragrance on, and you're feeling good. Okay, we have time for one more question. Does anyone have a burning question that has not been asked yet?
I just have a quick one. This is Tim Johnson with Jim Thompson.
Please, yes.
Which, me?
Yep, Tim.
Who are you talking to? Oh,
hey, Tim.
Hey, this is actually for, hello, everyone. Joby particularly, being a furniture or a fabric manufacturer and a lot of the upholstery companies being in California, before we ship anything, how can we be sure that someone, or do you know or have a consensus of how many companies are actually receiving goods?
Not many at the moment. Not in LA at least. I've been communicating with UPS every day and redirecting everything to my house at the moment. Since I'm working at home, but I'm also getting out my mask and my gloves in a little bit and heading to the PDC to check mail and to see if anything's there. And we'll be heading to my workroom this afternoon as well to see what's going on there. But we've been communicating with our clients just to ask them to try to redirect, or I'm grabbing the stickers that UPS leaves up, and then we're taking care of getting it all redirected for them.
Okay.
At this point, I'll probably ask.
Did that answer the question? I felt it was a little different in terms of maybe from a supplier perspective, are they able to deliver a specific product or to?
Well,
I don't if they ship fabric, if we're going to be able to receive it from them, actually.
Yeah, that was basically was the question.
Okay.
Is the receiving dock and all of that closed, I assume, at the design center?
No, they're open, but I think you have to go through. They're still there. The building is open because the landlord will not close it. Security is there, but of course, no showrooms are closed.
Yeah.
Okay. Thomas, any final thoughts other than remaining positive?
No, I think to just reinforce what we're all talking about, stay in communication. If you can't figure something out, call a friend. If you have a question, even with my own showroom, if one salesperson is doing a shop and they can't think of everything, they call someone else. But there's somebody to answer your questions, your concerns, in any capacity. The industry is so tight. So that's what I say, communicate and stay upbeat.
Wonderful. Joby, any final thoughts?
Same thing. I would just say keep the faith, and if you don't have a good network to be a part of, create your own. Reach out to some of your friends that are designers and start a daily or once a week conference call or something like that so that you can have these exact kind of conversations that we're having right now. And thanks, Lloyd, for putting this on. I think it's important for all of us just to be asking questions and staying in touch and communicating with each other. And that's one of the great benefits of all this amazing technology that's out there now with Zoom meetings and Google Meetup, conference calls and things like that. We can actually do this. Whereas 10 years ago, none of this would have been, a lot of this wouldn't have been possible. So we have a great opportunity to try to, stay in communication with people and to try to help each other all to get through this.
Absolutely. Well
Lloyd,
said. On that note, yes?
Lloyd, my name is Denise, and I was looking forward to this conference call all week. And, of course, I had a client that called me and took up a lot of my time. Are you going to put this on, will this be available online or something?
Absolutely. I was just going to tell you, yes, this recording as well as the previous recordings as well as tomorrow's recording are all on my website under the blog, and then we're also idtalentsearch.com. Actually, we have a different website, DMC, Dog Mary Charlie, NYC.com. But I am e-blasting this out as well, so you will get the link. It'll be posted on my LinkedIn everywhere. So we'll make sure that you get it. And then also, I just want to remind everybody that tomorrow's call is with Chris Ramey with Affluent Insights and Home Trust out of Florida, and he's going to be hopefully sharing some really good ideas and silver linings to this potential cloud. And if anyone has any different ideas or subject matter that you would like to have addressed or we should have a call around, please drop me a note. I would certainly appreciate hearing from you. I am grateful to my friends Thomas and Joby for their insights. I'm so happy that and Gary Searle with Kravitz for being faithful on each call and coming up with good questions, and people all over the country. So without further ado,